Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. I'm Mustard Saves, and today you guys are gonna watch me figure out how the heck to use a crock-pot. Well, crock-pot is a brand, so I'm probably gonna use the phrase slow cooker because they're all slow cookers. They cook things slowly. Anyway, I have had this thing for like 2 years now, maybe almost 3, I'm not quite sure. And I don't use it very often. The whole reason I own a slow cooker is because when I was in college, I had a roommate who had this exact same crock pot, like this model, make, model, and everything. And one day I turned on the oven and her lid was in the oven. So I totally melted the handle on her lid, and I watched the Crockpot website for like weeks, and they never had the stupid lids back in stock after that. And I was able to find a lid online, like on Amazon, for like $20, but this whole crockpot was $30. And I know that's probably not the best deal on a crockpot because I think around like holiday season they go on sale for like 20 bucks or something. But our time as roommates had already ended and she had moved to a different unit in the neighborhood, and I really just wanted to give her freaking lid back. So I just ordered a whole new one, and then we swapped the lids. And so for the longest time I had a crock pot, but the lid was like melted. I don't even think I have a picture of it. And then it wasn't until maybe like 3 months ago. You know what? It was in April. Back in April when I went to go visit my family, I had ordered a handle. You can buy these handles online. And I had asked my grandpa to help me get it switched out because here on the underside, this lid has been through some stuff, you guys, but where that screw is, there was actually a washer there on the original lid. So when the plastic part melted, so did that washer. And then when it cooled, obviously the washer is not hot anymore, so it like cemented it down, and I needed help getting the old one off. But now I have a functioning crock pot. I mean, it was functioning before. We just kind of had to use a fork or like pot holders to get the lid off, and I just did not use it for so long. And really, the only things I even did make in my slow cooker was I would make chili, or when pork shoulders go on sale, they used to go on sale for 67 cents a pound, but now they go on sale for 99 cents a pound. That's a whole nother topic, but anyway. I would put my pork shoulder in here because I didn't want the oven on all flippin' day just to make one pork shoulder. But with how insanely hot it has been outside for the last like month, and we still have like a month or two left of it, I have decided that now is the time, definitely the time, to learn how to use this thing. But I don't want to make just soups in it. Every time I look up crockpot recipes, it's like soups because you can't like brown things in this one. I just have a very simple off, low, high, warm one. I don't have one of the bougie ones where you can like actually cook things in it like the way Instant Pots, like you can saute things and then put the lid on and it becomes an Instant Pot. Anyway, I don't want just soups. So this is going to be a video of you guys seeing me trying to make something that's not just your typical everyday soup. There is one that is like soupy, but it doesn't have to be soupy. I just made it soupy. And anyway, my whole goal of this is that I will hopefully have a new kitchen tool that I can use in the summertime because it just gets so darn hot. And you can leave a crock pot on all day, and the only way that you'll know it's on really is because you can smell the things cooking. And if you look in the bowl, you'll see them cooking, but you won't feel the heat in the kitchen. And alrighty, that is my little intro. I have 4 different recipes that I tried out this week. This will not be the last that we will see of the crock pot, but I just wanted to try 4 different categories of things just to see how it came out, see what I could learn from it, what did I like, what did I not like, and then we can move on from there. So let's get started. For practice attempt number 1, I thought a pasta would be one of the easiest and quickest projects to start with. So to my slow cooker, I'm adding 2 cups of lentils that I've soaked overnight to speed up the cooking on this day. And I'd actually soaked up the entire 1-pound bag, which means this amount was probably around 1 cup if you're starting from dry. Then I've got 1 small onion going in, 2 cans of pasta sauce, and I filled those cans up with water to get the rest of the sauce out, and because we're gonna need the extra water to cook the lentils and the pasta. So in total, I added maybe about 1 whole extra can of water. For seasoning, I've just got Italian seasoning, salt, and garlic powder to start, and then I put the lentils to cook on high until they were soft, which for me took about 3 or 4 hours. And once they were done, I tossed in 1 pound of penne pasta. You can use whichever kind you'd like. This is just what I had on hand. And to give the pasta some cheesy flavor without adding any actual cheese, I shook in a healthy serving of nutritional yeast. If you've never had it before, I highly recommend giving it a try. I won't tell you that it tastes exactly like cheese because it's not cheese, but it does add that funky umami sensation that cheese can have. And with all the other vitamins it has in it, it's not a bad buy for only $5. From here, I ended up dropping the heat down to low because pasta doesn't need as long to cook, and I had an errand to run, so about an hour later, this is what my pot looked like. As we can see, my first lesson in slow cookery is to know how much water to put. Water doesn't evaporate as well as it does on the stove, so I did try to undershoot it a bit, but it looks like I went a little too far. The noodles were actually completely cooked, they were just very, very stuck together, so I added a little bit of water to help loosen it up, and I also realized the flavor was very underwhelming, so I went back and doubled all of the spices that I put in. For my first attempt at something other than a chili or a pork shoulder, I'd give myself a solid 6.5 on this one. It was pretty ugly and certainly not pristine pasta texture, but it was edible and we did eventually finish it all. For project number 2, we're back with the rest of that bag of lentils to make ourselves a lentil curry. Or is this a lentil dal? I'm not sure. I tried finding the difference online, but I can't quite figure out what it is. To me, it seems like all dals are curries, but not all curries are dals. Like, I'm so sorry. If any of you guys understand, please let me know in the comments. Anyway, back to the cooking. The amount of water you want to add is totally dependent on how liquidy you want your final product to be. I felt like a thinner soup would be nice in this hot weather, so I did put quite a bit, along with a big 28-ounce can of diced tomatoes, and I set it on high while I got my spices toasting on the side. This step is completely optional, but many Southern Asian cultures will toast their spices before adding it to food, and toasting does not require any oil, but I wasn't quite a fan of the texture of onions from yesterday's pasta, so I wanted to give those a head start too, so that's why I've got a little bit of oil in my pan. And honestly, if you're ever nervous about spending a lot of money to try new spices, I recently visited my local Asian grocery store and was super excited to find this box of garam masala to try for only $1.30. I'd seen it at my Walmart for about $6, not the same brand, but I could never bring myself to spend that much. And there were so many other spices there at such a great price. I'd really recommend you guys try visiting to see what kind of spices any of your local Asian grocery stores have. Once again, back to the cooking. Once my kitchen started to smell like all these wonderful spices, I used some water to help get everything unstuck from my pan. If you're dry roasting or if you have a better pan than mine, your spices won't stick at all. I just happen to have a very sticky pan. From there, I added everything from this pan back into my crock pot, and I left this on high for about 4 hours until the lentils were soft. If you leave this to cook for longer, the lentils will actually become mushier, the same way rice porridge does, so it's totally up to you on how long you want to cook yours for. We chose to serve ours over rice, and here's a clip of when I took it for lunch the next day. It doesn't look so appetizing next to a blue fork, but I promise it tastes much better than my plating skills would lead you to believe. I will definitely try to do this again, but next time I think I would scale back on the amount of water that I added, and instead add in a can of like coconut milk to give it a more creamy texture. But I don't regret making it thinner today because it was nice and light to have for lunch during such a hot summer season. But I can definitely see how making it thicker and creamier during a cooler month would make it nice and satisfying. For test number 3, I fell back to my old habits and I just wanted something quick and easy to make for dinner. I had received this packet of fajita seasoned beef from my local food pantry, And it had been a minute since we had tacos, so I just kept it simple by adding half a green and yellow bell pepper and a small onion. If you want just one color bell pepper, that's fine, but I had these two in the fridge. The meat was so thinly sliced and there was such a small amount compared to the size of my slow cooker that I think it only took about 2 hours to cook, but I honestly wasn't really paying attention. Overall, as a pre-seasoned meat, I would say this came out really good. There's something in here that gives it a kind of citrusy flair, like there's lime juice, but with no limes in it. Anyway, this one was super quick. My partner had his tacos with some homemade pico de gallo, and I had mine with some leftover cilantro and onions and a few jalapenos. And now for my final experiment, I wanted to make some kind of creamy rice, but I wasn't quite sure what to call this. To start off with, I have 1.5 cups of rice. I was thinking I could either do an herby, thyme, and rosemary theme, but then I remembered I still had that cilantro to use up, so cilantro and onion was where I went with this. The carrot is there mostly because if you saw my food pantry haul, you'll know I have a ton of it, so this was just my attempt at sticking it somewhere to use a bit of them up. To that, I added a can of cream of chicken soup, but really cream of anything would work, especially if you're going to go with the herby side. I would definitely recommend using a cream of mushroom. Then off to the side, I've actually pre-measured 3 cups of water and I'm just pouring it into the can to try and get everything out. And finally, as my last ingredient, I've got this little can of chicken. You can use fresh, but this is just what I had on hand. And after a hefty shake of salt and a good stirring so that way I could break up all of that cream of chicken, I left this to go on high for about 3.5 to 4 hours or until the rice is cooked to your liking. Here it is again as a lunch for work the next day. The carrots still had some firmness to them, and I probably should have added a little bit of bouillon powder because it was a little bland. But overall, I would say that this dish was a really good first try, and with a few tweaks, it has the potential to be something I'd make again. Alrighty, you guys, so here is the end of the video. As you can see, my crock pot has really been through it. And yeah. Overall, I would say I'm really impressed with the different things that you can do with a crock pot. I certainly just wasn't very good at it, but I wanted to share with you guys what it can look like when you're learning how to make things in the kitchen. They may not always taste that great, the texture might come out weird, but still have good flavor. Like, it can just be all over the place. But ultimately, yes, everything that you saw in this video did get eaten. And this is just the aftermath of my crock pot. Actually, I burned something a while ago in this, and I just had a final question of what do you guys clean the inside of your crock pots with, or your slow cooker, whichever you've got. All the brands work the same, but this thing says that you should not immerse it in liquid, so like I'm definitely not just gonna put this in the sink, but I really feel like there's something I could do to get like these crispy bits off the side. Like at one point all of these cracks used to be filled with grease, but I was able to like get in here and manually like scrape the grease out. But if you guys can recommend any products that would help make it easier to clean this thing, I would really appreciate that. And yeah, that is everything that I had to show you guys today. I hope you learned something about crockpots today. I certainly learned something about my crockpot today. And as always, if you have any questions or comments, please leave them down below. I love to hear from you guys. I love to hear y'all's input, and there have definitely been a lot of things that you guys have shared with me that have made my life a lot easier. So I really appreciate having little conversations with you guys. And if you want to see more money-saving content, please subscribe to my channel, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Goodbye!